and September 15th, 2025. Do we have any public comments today?
No public comment.
Okay, great. Moving on, the orientation, we do this once a year. So we will, today we will ask Colby, are you giving the presentation for our orientation? I'll ask you to give our orientation, please.
Before we get started, I'm just going to introduce Colby for those of you who haven't met him in person yet, but you should have received emails from him. So we did some kind of restructuring within our teams. You know, we kind of have the economic development and the redevelopment side. So redevelopment is what me and Devin work on, and we have had TIRZ 1 and TIRZ 3 because they are true redevelopment projects. For TIRZ 4 is more of a development project. So that is being transitioned over to economic development. So Colby will be your liaison. He joined us a few months ago from College Station. He's an Aggie. He is our business recruitment manager, and he got thrown into this. And he's excited to really learn about it. And then Alba is his direct oversight and will be here too if y'all need anything. But at the end of the day, we all share an office, so we'll all make sure that everything continues to go smoothly. But with that, I'll introduce Colby.
Thank you. And real quick, I want to welcome Rick. He is new to our board today as well. So thank you, Rick Miller, for being here and serving on the board for us.
Thank you, Jessica. For those of y'all who don't know me, my name is Colby Millenbrook. I'm the business recruitment manager, and today we're going to do your annual orientation to provide a high-level overview of the zone and of the board's responsibilities. Now, City Council requires all city boards receive an annual orientation to go over the zone's responsibilities, introduce board members, and review the zone's previous work and significant agreements. This policy also requires a one-time open meetings training for all board members. This will be scheduled through the city secretary. Additionally, the state of Texas requires a conflict of interest and disclosure training, which will be conducted later today by the city attorney. The zone has a 9-member board with 4 city appointees and 1 appointee each for Fort Bend County, the County Drainage District, and MUDs 137, 138, and 139. As a note, MUD 137 has appointed a position 7 representative, but they have not yet approved the participation agreement with the zone. In 2011, rules and procedures were established to guide administrative and operational procedures, including membership and term length, duties and powers, and meeting procedures for conflict and executive session. Here is an older as well as a more recent map of the zone, which encompasses a portion of the Telfair development, the University of Houston at Sugar Land campus, the Smart Financial Center, and the surrounding tract area, including the Crown Festival Park. The zone was created in December 2009 by Ordinance 1768, which established the 701-acre zone with a 5-member board. At that time, the city was the only participant and agreed to contribute 50% of the increment generated by property taxes. Contributions were to begin in 2010 and continue through the zone's expiration in 2039. The creation ordinance was then amended in December 2010 by Ordinance 1807, which added 4 more board positions for the possible participation of the Drainage District and the 3 MUDs. That amendment also reduced the acreage down to 698 by removing some erroneously included residential plats. The final project plan, which outlines the zone's projects in priority order, was approved in February of 2013 and approved some high quality mixed use and wanted it to be office and entertainment centric. Project costs were estimated at $50 million with non-project investment estimated at $1.6 billion. Now that $1.6 billion estimate was for private development costs over the next 30 years of the lifespan. The project plan also stipulates that the zone will not issue debt, but can reimburse debt service for project costs incurred by the city, the county, University of Houston, and the developer. The tax increment revenue generated by the zone participants will help fund the implementation of the previously mentioned project plan. In 2011, both MUD 138 and 139 agreed to participate at a tax rate equal to 50% of the city tax rate above their base values. MUD 138's base value was $10.5 million, while MUD 139's base value was $10.9 million. The county and drainage district also agreed to participate in 2013 at 50% of taxes above their base value of $72.1 million until 2029. after which they would participate at 30% from 2030 to 2034, and then 20% from 2035 to 2039. In 2013, the city and the zone approved a support services agreement, which allowed the city manager to make expenditures in the form of materials, facilities, and support personnel for the zone through the annual budget process. Support personnel and services include general administration, financial services, legal services, and the administration of projects and contracts. Each year in September, the board will recommend a budget to City Council for approval. This year, City Council will approve the budget in October. For fiscal year 25, revenues are estimated at 1.89 million, while expenditures are estimated at just over 16,000, bringing our ending fund balance estimated at $11.3 million. The zone's annual report is a requirement of Chapter 311 of the Texas Tax Code, and it displays annual revenues, expenditures, debt, captured values, and taxes collected. The board makes their recommendation to City Council for approval in December, and upon council's approval, copies of the report will be sent to the state comptroller and then all taxing entities in the zone. The board meets on a quarterly basis, typically at 4 p.m. on the third Monday of March, June, September, and December. And if there's nothing to go over for that quarter, we will usually cancel the meeting, which is what happened previously this year in March and June. In September, the board receives their annual orientation, elects officers, makes their annual budget recommendation to City Council, and receives ethics training. And lastly, in December, the board makes their annual report recommendations to City Council and receives a development update. With that being said, I'll now pass it over to Jessica Hubble for a brief Track 5 update.
Yes, before I leave y'all, my parting gift is an update on Track 5, because I know there's always a lot of questions about it. So as Colby just went over, the original plan that was designed with Newland was very mixed use office centric. Obviously that changed post-COVID. And so the land has been sold off to a variety of different owners now. And so where it sits today, you've got MD Anderson in the pink here. They own around 37.4 acres. They are actively in construction. If you drive by the site, they've got all their fences up. They have submitted their TIA for the first phase of development, and it was agreed upon in June. And then they're continuing to work with city staff, the planning team, to move everything else through. And this will be a phased project, so this will go on for many, many years. Donati's group owns the bottom 50 acres here. This one right now in the general land plan, as Colby just said, is zoned office, but what he's proposing is a mixed use development. Staff has met with him in June. They discussed 2 different conceptual site plans, but they've not received any formal submittals at this time. And then they have another meeting coming up where they're going to talk about the needs for a TIA and community engagement and things of that sort. And then the most recent is the Lexington Commons, which is the top 8 acres. The Lexington Commons FDP was adopted by council in April of this year, and that allows for professional and medical office development with retail services or restaurant services. And then the plat is currently under review, but awaiting site plan and building permit submittals. So that is as recently updated as we could get. If there's anything that has to come back, obviously for development agreement updates or TIRZ updates, it's going to come back before the board, but this is where we sit today. Any questions? Okay.
Thank you, Colby, for the orientation, and thank you, Jessica, for the update. Next on our agenda is the election. We don't need to receive that. No motion required, right?
For election?
For orientation or anything.
Oh,
Okay, great. So next we will move to election of officers, consideration of an action on election, vice chairman, secretary, and any other officers as deemed necessary. Greg, as chairman, is appointed in his position, but the vice chair and secretary are up for nominations. And we've never required or thought that there was any other position necessary. So do we have any nominations for these positions?
We will have one.
Make a motion to nominate Terry for secretary. Terry for secretary.
Okay, Terry for secretary. Sounds like a great slogan. Okay.
Second that.
Okay. So should we do all the officers together? Can we do one at a time?
It depends on if you want to keep.
I haven't formally been nominated.
And And Jennifer Raymond as vice
Okay.
chair.
Vice Chair.
Yes.
I second that.
Pamela made the first motion, Rick made the second motion for Terry for secretary. And then Pamela made a motion for myself to be vice chair, as well as Marcelo, second motion. Okay. Do we have any other discussion? Recommendations, okay. Can we make can we vote for both all in one motion?
Yes.
Okay, so all those in favor of Terry as secretary and me as vice chair?
Aye.
All those. Okay. Anonymous pass, third pass unanimously. Our next agenda item is, thank you guys for that. Our next agenda item is annual ethics training, and today we have Meredith Reed. Did she have good characters this year?
Always.
Tries to make it fun for us.
The same as last year because the law has not changed. So thank you for being here. This is your annual ethics training as required by state law. My ethics disclosure is I don't own these images, so we're both here gonna follow the rules. So when you talk about ethics, there are two questions you're gonna ask yourself. What are you required to do? What happens if you don't? So there's two state laws you need to be aware of, chapter 171, 176. 171 is the regulation of conflicts of interest. And you're going, gosh, what's a conflict of interest? What am I prohibited from doing? You are prohibited, and this is a double name. You are prohibited from failing to file an affidavit and abstaining from voting on an item in which you have a conflict of interest, which would be a substantial interest in that item, whether it's a business or real property. And you're going, what's that? Well, substantial interest in a business entity, if you, your spouse, your parent, or your child owns 10% or more of the voting stock, shares or fair market value of that company, $15,000 or more of the fair market value, or your last paycheck for the previous years, 10% or more from that company. You have a substantial interest in real property if you, your spouse, your parent, or your child has an equitable legal ownership of $2,500 or more. It's a very, very low bar. So if you own the driveway, you're probably in. So if you have this substantial interest, you're asking yourself, what do I need to do? You need to file an affidavit with the city clerk's office no later than 5 p.m. on a Friday after finding out that you have this conflict, and you have to abstain from participation, discussion, and vote on the matter. We are home to the Astros. I don't believe that they can read signs, but there is a rumor, so we do ask that you step out of the room so there is no confusion or accusations that you might in fact be telling somebody how to vote or steal home plate. So, and if you decide you don't want to comply, congratulations. You get to spend time at the county bed and breakfast. This year, fine not to exceed $4,000. Having a really bad day, it could be both. So chapter 176, this is where I call gifts. The county and the AG call it bribes. So you get to brag to us about people giving you gifts. I have never been bribed, been here for 20 something years, still holding out hope. Hopefully you never get bribed either, but just in case you do, you get to file a conflicts disclosure statement reporting these business relationships and receipt of certain gifts. That affidavit must be filed with the city clerk's office as well. 5 p.m. on the 7th business day after you become aware of that conflict. And you're saying, when do I need to disclose business relationships? It's when you and the vendor are related within the 3rd degree by blood or 2nd degree by marriage. I don't know that off the top of my head, but I have a really nice chart on my desk. Should you need a copy, I'm happy to email it to you. And you or a family member receive taxable income equal or greater than $2,500 during a 12-month period prior to you becoming aware that a contract has been considered or entered into by the TIRZ. And when you get to brag about gifts, well, when the cumulative value of the gift from each vendor reaches $100. So it's a restart for each vendor, but you only get 100 for that. So you can go up to the $99.99, no issues. You take that extra penny, you get to come brag and fill out the form with the city clerk's office. So gifts, lodging, transportation, and entertainment. It also includes food when the vendor is not present. So if you get a little gift basket, you get one of those fruit flower arrangements, that's fine, still report it. However, if you have the fortune or misfortune of sitting across the table from that vendor and having a conversation while you're enjoying your meal, go ahead and order dessert, get a to-go box because you actually get up to $500 for the privilege of them having your conversation. You decide not to comply with this one, no worries. It's only a Class C misdemeanor, but the contract can be declared void. So I went through that very fast. You all saw it last year. You all behaved for a year. I have high confidence you'll do it again. Do you have any questions? Fantastic. Stay ethical, my friends.
Thank you, Meredith. And attorneys can be fun and entertaining. Our next agenda item is our budget. Consider action on our budget for the upcoming year, and we have Shalay to present us the budget.
Great. Hi, I'm Shalay Stedman. I am the budget director here at City of Sugar Land. I haven't been here yet a year, so I'm a new face. So if you're wondering who I am, that's who I am. Usually Justin is here for this presentation, but he's out today. So I will try to be as fun as Meredith, but we're gonna be talking about a lot of numbers. So today we're gonna just cover first fiscal year 25, the projections and how we saw the revenues come in with the last supplemental values. And then we'll get into fiscal year 26 budget. There are 2 items today that you'll have to approve. The amendment for fiscal year 25 budget and then the adoption of fiscal year 26 budget. So for fiscal year 25's budget, you can see on the left is the certified roll. So this is what we had last year when we brought you the numbers. And then the most recent, which is the supplement number 12, that we received from the appraisal. So as you can see, we're seeing a decrease in values. The top is the city, the county reflects basically the same thing. The values have dropped since the certification. And then you can also see it on the MUD, that drop in values. And it's all in our non-home site improvements. No surprise there. But as you can see, that drop in the values brings the revenue down to about 125,000 total. But the good news is we had an increase in interest, which offset that drop in the values. So totally our revenues dropped about 25,000 in our projections, and then we had a reduction in expenditures. We didn't have any legal or financial services that we used. So we're seeing a net increase to the fund balance by 25,000 for 25 projections. I went through that pretty fast. Are there any questions on 25? So there. Perfect. So jumping into 26 increment values. You can see now we're going from the certified, our most recent, to our supplement 12 to the certified values. We're seeing a growth in all of the values. The big thing to view is the abatement has dropped off. The Texas instruments abatement that we had last year, and that's that change in the exemptions and abatement drop down that. And then also we have our MUD values listed. I'm going through these pretty quickly, but total, you can see the total amount is up $1.8 million in revenue for this TIRZ 4. I do want to highlight that these are based off of a participation rate of 50%, and we are planning on a collection rate of 99.5%. And I know last year there was a question on the county tax rate. This does include the general tax rate and the drainage portion of the tax rate. Questions on these revenues? Okay. Not a lot of surprises with this budget, but as you can see, the incremental revenues, we have an increase in our fund balance, so the interest revenues have increased a little bit as well. And then we included 25,000 for financial, 25,000 for legal services and our expenditures, and then administrative costs. That's just a transfer to the city's general fund to cover all of the people that have presented and any support staff you receive throughout the year. And that leaves our total ending fund balance to 13.5 million. So, any questions on that? Sorry, I have no fun pictures. I don't like following Meredith, but here we go. So 2 actions. One is the amendment of the fiscal year 25 budget to projections, and then the second action is the approval of the 26 budget.
Thank you, Shalay. Anybody have any questions on action 1? On the amended budget? May I get a motion?
The motion to amend the FY 2025 budget as presented by Shalay.
Pamela made first motion, Terry the second. All those in favor? It's a text. Pass unanimously. May I get a motion on action 2 to approve the 2026 budget? Marcelo, seconded by Rick. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Our next meeting, December 15th, are we still scheduled for that? That's when we'll have our annual report. Terry.
Two questions. One, could we get copies of the presentations? That way, since we didn't take notes when we're doing it, that way, when you and I need to get together, or when we need to make our presentations to our respective boards, and we have information for those. And secondly, I'm used to us approving minutes from previous meeting or whatever. Did we not have to do that this time?
That's why I met Colby today over the phone. They weren't on the agenda because the person that writes them was out of town when the agenda was due. So we'll approve both of them in December.
Okay, good. I just, like I said, I noticed that one other, I'm just used to that, so.
So yeah, we'll follow up in the next day or so with all the slides.
Okay.
And then if there are links to all of these agenda items too, so there's a budget in there and everything. We was reviewing that today. So if there's no other business, do I have a motion to adjourn? Terry's first, Rick second.